Pink Cloud Radio 89. So, where did I start from? Where did I begin from? Where did this whole thing start? Started back in 89. Not me, but where I am right now. What I am. Yes, I've been in the same place for a while. Not the same place, but the same place, you know. Because there's a difference between being in the same place and being in the same place with what you do, with who you are. I haven't been in the same place for a long time, but I have been here. And I guess that's an important quality to look at when you're looking at what you're doing. When you're looking at exactly what you are. You know, there's not much else to really say about it, because it's easier to swallow knowledge than to acquire it laboriously from books. Is it not so? Some folks can swallow anything. And it's true. Sadly, this has been the brisk outtake of what I've seen in lifetime span. Why people would probably let history be rewritten is one of these statuettes of it. You know, all you need to look at is the fact that people will swallow knowledge. Knowledge that may not be knowledge at all. Knowledge that may be truth and lies mixed together. So we don't know the truth, in fact. All we know is truth and lies spun together and given to us. You know, homemade brave, you know, when it's not brave at all. It's braver to say the truth. You know, bravery is not something you can say, where you say, this is the home of the brave. Wherever you go on earth, it's probably not a place where there's lies, where there's secrets kept. It doesn't take bravery to keep secrets. It takes a little something else. Mostly it takes not wanting to be discouraged for what you're doing. Not wanting to basically see the result of telling the truth. So you could be misaligned all you want, you know, and have a certain repugnance toward, you know, other people not telling the truth or keeping secrets. But when you do it, it's all okay. And this is what I've learned about swallowing knowledge. Some folks can swallow anything. It's pretty sad. Is it not so, though? Of course. Laboriously through books isn't the only way you can learn knowledge, though. So I have an ill attempt to say that it's kind of far-fetched to think that nobody has knowledge outside of that, or there's nothing to knowledge outside of that. There is knowledge. But the knowledge that you'll gain outside, you have to be careful of. You know, you can't always take it as 100%, you know. But at the same time, you can say that about anything, you know. And I think that's where a lot of people say they coexist with things, or they're okay with patriotism, or they're okay with, you know, trusting their countries wherever they are in the world. And without any missteps, will let it happen. That's when you learn the further side of it. That there's that unwillingly ignorant attitude about it, which I talked about last time, so let's not get into it too much here. But let's get into the fact of swallowing knowledge. What is knowledge? Let's find out. Well, it's pretty easy. It's what you want it to be. That's knowledge to me. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not really knowledge. Maybe it's knowledge to you. And that's about it. And you're acquiring it through any means but the books, I guess you could say. You know, and not even guess you could say. That is how you learn it. You know, that's how you learn your knowledge. And you're not learning it through a harder means than to support your own life. You know, and a lot of times that's where a lot of knowledge comes from. People's personal self-interest. But that may not be the knowledge that you need. Or, in fact, it may be the only one you'll persist with. Because it's a self-interest. You know. So if you look into something and you act upon it the same way they did. So your only acceptance of the, like, let's say you look back in history and you say, you know, I like looking back in history because you find out a lot more truths. You find out a lot more things about how this world and other worlds have been. Other places have been. But if you're doing the same exact thing as them, the only reason you're using that history is because you want to do the exact same kind of manipulations they did to the timetable of our world, of our society, of our civilization, in quotes and everything, because, sorry, you know, we can say all we want, we can be civilized, but that's the main error of our ways, because now we have a persistent species build. And it's funny that a lot of good people will die because of this. Because of all the bad people that took over. Well, those good people should have done something. They did. But you guys didn't do anything, There are probably more bad people in the world than good. You know why? Because bad is a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to justify the bad. You can't justify a good thing. Because people always say, oh, well, there's good has a definition. Well, bad has a definition too. Good just doesn't have a definition. Yours does too. Yeah, but, I had a reason to do that. And that's why we keep on using politics as a means to support any claim and any sort of person and any sort of idea and any sort of action that takes place. The voice of reason isn't really reasonable if they're only saying it, not doing it. That's how you swallow knowledge. You basically say, I'll accept this. Under these, okay, that's okay too. And then you eventually accept anything. Because you accepted the first thing, everything becomes acceptable. So pretty much, at an end, you are your own death, So like when people say, that everybody will, fight and there'll be a revolution. No, there won't be, People already jump off a cliff for security and protection and escape, All the things that are supposed to happen already have, That's why, in my own future's already here, Everything that we've seen in movies where the technology takes over, it already happened. Sorry, it already happened. Too late, guys. You guys were idiots to believe that something as simple as a functioning tool, could take over for us. Because guess what? That's what made us a function. That's what make us the laborious task of everybody else's, which is just a function there. If there's nothing more value there, then there never was in the first place. You didn't have a value for humans if you have to create something else to elude the human. And say, oh, well, the human can do this, but, and then no, you can't take away from the human, because at that point you're not humane at all. You're basically saying humans are not justifiably work-related or cannot complete a task as well as this, as well as what a human has created. But don't take away from the human because of that, a human is still a human at the end of the day, and as long as we decide these knowledges through other means, you'll accept any kind of thing. You'll swallow anything. You'll swallow anything, because any story coming short of what your expectations, your dreams, your fantasies, well, no wonder the American dream keeps on staying, because people make them up every day. People make up a dream every day. It doesn't make reality, though. The reality of it is very different. The reality of it is bums on the street being disconsidered by a lot of people and thrown in the trash can with how they walk away from them. Not to say that they have to give them any money, but the fact of how they treat them, that's another human. That's you. And it's basically you. If you were in that position to be treated like that, it's not about how would you feel. The fact that there is someone else doing that exact same thing to you. That's the only difference. You may think you're going to be protected. Nobody will. Because if you can see a lifeless sign in somebody who's very alive, then you're going to be treated like that too at some point. And you are already. And that's what makes everybody turn away from everybody else who's lower than them. That's why this class thing really works, because if somebody does something from above, it goes here to the next one. It goes here to the next one. It goes here to the next one until it gets down to the down bottom. And that's it. And that person will probably tell you the most about what they experienced, and then it just floats back to the surface of what the top one did. And it's all back to top-bottom theory. That doesn't work anymore. But to be fair, it does work, because everybody needs something to cling on to. So they can cling on to this material and this stuff of this empire building, of this globalization, which is just empire. And that's all you need, Oh, well, it's okay, China's doing a better job in their sweatshops. It's only because they're making production a lot better. They're not treating the people better. So it doesn't matter as long as they make the production better. If they don't have any, the toys don't have any wrong things made with it. Well, that wasn't the decision of China, guys. That was the businessmen from America who sold it overseas, who decided how it's supposed to be made. They're the analysts. They're the ones who make the product what it's going to be. They don't actually handle the workspace it's in. So actually, you're treating people viciously bad as if they're the ones who decided how to make it. They're being induced with that stuff every single day when they work with it. All your kids did was take it in, and you guys realized, wait, it's made in the wrong thing, and then you decided to do something about it. And that's where I am. In this space of fog, that is, I can see the dealership of attitude towards every human. And you know what? It's everywhere. And I think that's where we have the separation of what people really care about. Because people always say, like, just care about yourself. But see, right there, nothing will change then. If all you do is care about yourself, that's the same reason that got all our businessmen to go overseas and sell our jobs to China. That's the same reason that got what's happening to the Nigerian, two of the regional peoples there that are old, traditional, living, off the earth, are being treated like shit because of the oil reserve there. That's what's happening in Pakistan when they're looking for Al-Qaeda up in the mountains. The tribal, regional people there, destroyed, And it comes back to all this, is that this is basically a silent genocide that's accepted, just as much as our native genocide was turned into Thanksgiving. Ta-da! But actually, that was the start-off point towards degeneration of the cultures, of the ideas. And basically saying that culture is important except when it tries to keep its own culture here where we want to take over. Well, then culture is not important. See, that's why I think culture is not important, because if you can take out a culture and say our culture will take place of this, then culture does not matter. I think it matters, but only if it always does. You can't have any excuses to say it's different. You can't. And I think that's what I learned, is that if you justify your own slaughtering of people, then you justified everything. You justified the term of engagement of what it is. All you need to do now is just label them bad and say they were using black magic. Well, hold on. If it's so funny that people talk about that stuff when they don't believe in it. How can you use black magic if it's not real? Just saying, on the double-ended spectrum, so many people nowadays talk about atheism, talk about not believing in the spiritual, and yet at the same time will put down a culture from the past because of using black magic. Well, what hurts you the most? The fact that it's not true to you? Or the fact that you have to deal with the agenda of it? Because it's the same agenda that we have all over the world right now with the wars. Wars is the worst. If you say it's the best, you have another way of living. You basically can justify putting down on people for doing the exact same thing you do. The only difference is they're dead. And that's all. And I think that's what I've learned about this swallowing knowledge. I've transfixed my own sense and turned over a new leaf as the Death King, I've transfixed my own sense, meaning that I've understood it so much that now, in a way, I'm letting it take over itself, Not in a way where I don't have any control over it. Some people would say. But it's not a matter of having control over it. I think it's the same thing when people say that you have to have control of your senses, your emotions, those kind of things. I'm half and half with that, because I believe that in a lot of ways, what happens to people when they have total control of themselves is they can't reveal anything about themselves. To me, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it hard. If you hold on to things, well, you decide to, But to be fair, that's why you're going to treat people like shit. And the whole thing about that is that you're putting yourself in a position to have one place and another. When you're transfixing your own senses, you're going to learn very harshly and deeply what those things are. What puts you in a certain place and what puts you out of it. So when you see your senses, your emotions, when people try to put you in your place and say you're wrong, a lot of times the whole world has been wrong in a lot of different ways. One of those ways is, you can't have emotional appeal. Why not? It's all because of a human. And that's the one thing that I've learned, that if we're trying to get away from the human, then pretty much, we don't need humans here at all. Not one. And truly, that's where I know this world has to end for all humans. Because if you see no place for a human here, what's the point? What's the point of you? If you as a human don't see a point for another human being there, well, what's the point? Tell me. because you've now lost the ability to see something important right there. I mean, you've walked away from it entirely. The emotions, the feelings, sensitivities, senses, instincts, guts. You've walked away from it all. Why? Because of Disneyland? Because of a computer? Because of your cell phone? Well, you decided that. No one else forced you to do it. To be fair with you, no one else did. I grew up with those things too, but you know what? Why am I talking with you like this? It means no one can force me into that. Into that place. There are so many businesses out there, outside of the main ones, that are very different. There's a complicated virtue in this world that you can't break. There will always be people trying to step out of it and say, you know what, this doesn't work. But it doesn't mean they're doing it the right way. I don't think all of them are. And I think, in fact, there are probably parts in each one that are still using the same exact factor of what you have here. What the one I'm arguing about. Of what the one I'm speaking of. You always have to use the parts inside of it. So to be fair, you can't change a system if you don't plan to really change it 100%. You can't just work outside of the system and expect the system to change. Because it won't. But it doesn't mean you have to work inside the system to change it. No. I'm just saying that you can't take those parts away. No matter how much you say, we have something better here to offer. It doesn't matter. The fact is, the ones inside of it has justified what it's doing. Turned over a new leaf. The new leaf is there. But a lot of people step over new leaves when they fall to the ground. So, doesn't matter. And I think that's what I've learned as the Death King. Somebody who, feels that, I'm not afraid of death kind of attitude. It's the one thing I learned about my past. I didn't want to see those people in pain that I had in my life. And to be fair with you, they were in pain with me. And you know what? That isn't fair to them. When you talk back to what happened with Shane, with what happened to Mary, Rena at those times, when you see what happened with, apologies, if I remember correctly, what happened with Neumann, what happened with Martha and the group, and what happened with Diana, what happened with Patrick, what happened with Christina, Catherine, the other guy I knew, who does masseuse work and other things, and you look at Miguel and that kind of stuff, which was a good part. At least there's a difference between what you can achieve with somebody versus what they want to achieve and they're trying to get it by their own means. I think being that I'm not afraid of death, I know what kind of person I could be with. And I know, in fact, how I could be with somebody, that when you look at the vast, background of everything. And further on, if you look at what happened recently with the whole situation with the paranormal group and the show, you have a very different outlook on things. And you do, And pretty much, as what I do here with the Pink Cloud Radio, you have to say it. You have to say it to the people you're involved with. If you don't plan to, well, that's not, first off, that's not their fault. Sorry. And I think that's where people justify themselves. When they don't have to speak about something or they don't want to with certain people, you lose them. Sorry, And to be fair, it's justifiably right to walk away from that. No one should be forced in a position they don't know about. I feel the same way with what I feel that you have to do with. You have to confer with the people you're working with. You can't just say, lay it on them later. No, don't lay it on them later. Lay it on them now. Let them know. If you don't, personally, I got no reason to be here. Because if you're not willing to admit that there's going to be something going on here that's going to be different than what you're stating now, then I already know where I have to go. It's not here. It's the one thing I learned about being transfixed with my own senses, that it's not for me. And I think in a lot of ways when people try to justify it or try to say, wait, hold it, Marcello, hold it. I did. But it wasn't for me to hold. There's a difference, And I'm not talking about leadership at that point. I'm not talking about having an oppressive attitude towards it. No. I'm talking about literally, it's not for me. If there's something for me, it is. It has little to do with the justifiable way of who I am. The fact that if I move into something and you see it, you see it. You know, if I have to basically have certain attitude towards something to get something, no. I have to be myself when I'm doing it, you know? And if I don't feel I'm being myself, or in fact, speaking for myself, deeper reason, then fairly enough, I don't have anything to offer, you know? And it's just as much when you're working with something with passion. You know, some people have said, and it's true, that you may not work in the field that you expect to. I don't, you know? Everything that I've been doing my whole life, I never expected to do. Even my writing, I never expected to do it. I never expected to come so far with it. But I did. You know, which means that everything that I didn't expect to do, I'm doing. I never expected to do this, to be fair with you. I never did. I always expected to be just in the job, not doing anything on my free time, not doing anything that matters on my time. But I had the time for it. Even with my family saying, you need to help me with this, I still put my time aside to say, you know what? I gotta do this. And everybody understands. Nobody raises a voice and says, hold it a second there. Nobody. You know why? Because they know that it matters. That it doesn't take too long, really. You put your time in, you know how to put your time in. Just a little bit each day. Okay. At the most, maybe 3 hours. And then I'm done. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Let me see what I can work on here. Then type it out little by little and you work on it. And that's all. And that's how you know you're transfixed. Because you do things you don't expect. You're already here. You know, and I think that's one thing that I learned about going through the field that I did. And going through the life that I have. You know, I expected to be in a place totally different than where I am. I expected to just have a job and be there. And that's it. And just come home and just sit down, watch a movie, you know, play a video game, maybe listen to music, you know. And at this point in my life, I've done a lot more than that. And I'm glad to, you know. But I also know that it's very different for everybody, you know. That it's not going to be the same exact story, you know. To be fair with you, do I feel like I've accomplished all my goals? Yeah, I do. It's sad, to be fair with you, that I have to work through other people to get it. There, I've said it. You know, and that in a lot of ways with what I want to do personally, that it's almost like a joke when it comes down to how people will treat it at times. That, oh no, you got to do it on your own. True. I am doing it on my own though. You know, that's the one thing I always do. So I never expect anybody to do anything for me. If somebody wants to, oh, that's wonderful. Then they know that I'm actually putting my time in for myself. You know, it may not be the greatest time, it may not be the most fluorescent, and it may stop at certain points, but it doesn't completely cut down. It's still there, and it always is there. It's always built and ready, and coming forward more. That's how you know you have personal love for something. You never expected to do it, and you're there, doing it. I think that's why I can't really take on a different role. You know, with all the companies I've seen, Cutco, Lioness, some other shopping places and stuff like that. I can't remember the names of some of them. Kagan Water, World Financial Group even. Just looking at this stuff, it's not for me. You know, and I understand what this old way of doing things with the boss and employee is different. That it may not do anything either. You know, working at a fast food place or something may not do anything. But neither does the other side. Because look, the boss and employee relationship is still there. To me, the one thing I've learned is that a lot of people try to make promises about something that may be there, may be 100% true. But I do feel that if the rest of them still exist, it's hard to really keep that promise. We've come into a place that has started with such necessary agents. Necessary, I mean. And I'm not talking about agents like, oh, this is agent 1, this is agent 2. No. Necessary agents in living. There's this agency of living that people barely talk about. But it's still there. You know, it's still there when you go everywhere, when you do anything. And I think that's what I mean, like, when I speak about a lot of stuff that I do, that it's very little to do with what we would want, you know. And I think a lot of times that's where That's where a lot of times we lose ourselves, because we can't really do something we really want. Even though we really can, it's just that a lot of times we wouldn't want to put the time in to do it, And I think that's what I mean by you transfix your own sense. You don't really have any reason to do something else, unless your senses really call to it, And I think even in that, like when people say, maybe if you work on it, you'll want to do it. It's true. I won't deny it, but it may not be true, And when I looked at what I've seen through my life so far, because it's different for everybody, and it's different because, I'm 27 right now. But when you look at it, you're basically saying that, it's easier to swallow knowledge. But, I'm not about to swallow anything. To me, I still have to be myself in this, And I already know I've gone to places I didn't expect, I have already, But it doesn't mean I have to go everywhere. It doesn't mean I have to do everything. I don't have to do these drugs. I don't have to do that drug. I don't have to do this. I don't have to rely on the healthcare system, which hopefully falls down after what's happened. Because personally, you can't force people to do something that should, if it's so good, it doesn't need to be forced on people. That's the one thing I've learned through human life in general. If something is so good, sorry, you can't force it on people if it's so good, And that's the one thing I learned through my life. So some people swallow anything. It's true, but not everybody does. And I think we're starting to learn that, that you shouldn't. I don't think everybody should swallow everything, even if they read a book. Read books consistently, I would say. But don't swallow everything, And it's the same reason why I'm interested in conspiracies. Not because I swallow them and believe all them 100%. Because there's truth and lies mixed up in everything. And you know what? Even in those, there's going to be truth and lies everywhere. Because it's the same reason how dinosaurs were found. When they found them, they made a whole model. Even though they only had the head. Even though they had a certain part of the body. They made a whole model for the dinosaur. Even though they didn't have it. They just made it up. You can't do that, And I think that's why I'm on this learning curve of take everything in, understand the heart inside and out, good and bad, and even outside of the heart, what it is, the other side of the heart too, and you got to understand all these to understand that, hey, all this stuff does matter, but swallowing everything doesn't, it doesn't matter at all. And I think it's a hard thing to take, because when you're able to just swallow anything you want, that's it, you don't really have much else, and it's just not for the same purposes that you think it is. You gotta just do it for your own, for your own fleshing out, and what I've learned is, it is easier to swallow knowledge and swallow anything you want. Like I said, I have my own senses here. It doesn't matter how much you try to put something else on me. I can't participate unless my senses are there too. Do I feel like there is some opportunity everywhere? Of course. Do I feel like there's a crash and burn everywhere too? Of course. Because no matter what, you're using the system to do it. And the systems fail. The bigger systems. Because, no huge industry can ever make its end without selling a bunch of things. And to me, it's very paper thin when it comes to that. Very paper thin. I don't expect to feel the most grandiose when I do something right. I don't expect it. And I think that's why you can't make a system like this work anymore. Well, never did, obviously. But I'm saying that you couldn't make people understand that. Because most people would be okay with hurting others to get something, or to demand payment for their action, even if it's a bad action. I demand payment for this, even if I did it wrong. Even if I did something that wasn't good, I demand payment for this. There you go, That's all you need to look at. You think the truth is just selling you out to make money or engage in entertainment? Does not mean reality or truth has been spoken. Do you think the truth is just selling you out? It's not. And I think that's what I've learned about the truth. Like, to a lot of people, they get very defensive about it. When you speak the truth, they get very defensive, as if their own life is at risk. But your life is already at risk if you think your life is at risk. If you do something, or if you hear somebody do something that makes you get defensive, at that point, your life has already been at risk for a long time, because that kind of stuff is already there, And the fact that somebody can hold it over you at all means you're already at risk of death. Your life does not matter at that point if you let somebody else's secrets make you get defensive, even for it being spoken of. And I think that's one thing I learned about this, dealing with the kind of stuff I do. It's a hard thing to see, because you see it every time. You see it every day with people. You don't even have to look at the governments of the world to see it. You see it with personal families, with the authority figures, with those kind of things. You see it with everything, and you're like, God damn, fucking bullshit right there. And it is. That's fucking bullshit. That it's based off those kind of ill-stated ways of caring about people. I care about people as long as I get my way, And that's really how it goes with authority figures. Whether it's family or not. There's always a personal impression that they have, that they want expended and put on their kids. There's an expendable kind of philosophy with it. Like, if you don't act like me, I don't care about you. Or they justify defending certain things that may be the exact same thing that you're defending on a different end, And I think in a lot of ways people feel tossed out of the mold. Like, I wouldn't expect anybody to find somebody for me. Something I learned. Or in fact, what could be the fact of, if somebody has interest in me, even though they're with somebody, doesn't mean they'll always have interest in me. And it's a reality point, If you need to tell everybody else except me, there's nothing there, Literally, there's nothing left to tell me. There isn't, because at that point, you already have your life. Your life story is a recommended community, that is accepted by the vast majority of people in abusive relationships in the first place. Abusive relationships does not mean they get abused intolerantly every single day. Not with, getting hit or getting misaligned with, firing of screams at everybody. No. Abusive relationships are a lot deeper than that. And something that you will take in a lot of times when you see how people deal with the truth. If you get defensive, if you feel like you're being sold out by that, well, to be fair, you sold yourself out. No one else did. By keeping yourself elusively awkward towards those things, you basically sold yourself out by not dealing with that truth. It's not the other person's fault. The other person is trying to show you, hey, this is the truth right here. And in a lot of ways, when people say the truth hurts, it's mostly because if it's a person that doesn't like the truth, yes, the truth hurts. The truth hurts if you don't like the truth. It's going to always hurt, because if you don't like the truth, well, first off, if you don't like something, you're probably not going to like it when you see it or hear it. So, there you go. You don't need explanation as to why the truth hurts. You already know why. It's because you didn't deal with it before. And you didn't like dealing with it at all. To make money or engage in entertainment does not mean reality or truth has been spoken. It's true. If that's and I think that's what I've learned about what I saw within the people that I worked with and the people that I was around. That just because you're getting an engagement in entertainment does not mean you're saying the truth or you're dealing with reality. You're probably not dealing with reality at all. You're dealing with your own side of the world, and that's it. This is my side of the world. But is it? To me, I know that I see things through my sight. But I also try to not evade the questions of other people. I try to answer them, and I say, you know what? Personally, if you're not willing to look into this, then your argument means nothing to me, because you don't have any evidence to prove your side. All you have is the government's word. All you have is your authority figure's word. That's all you have. And I'm sorry to say this, but authority figures have been known to lie. Very known to lie, because it's all based on their anarchy. Their own anarchy is personally there, and they're able to put it on everybody else below them. That's why personally I think anarchy would work, because it's been working for people who's on top. The only difference would be is that nobody would be on top to put it on the other people below them. So it wouldn't come down. It would go back to the same person that did it most of the time. I think it always would, in fact, because there wouldn't be a position of power with it. So you could basically take out anybody you want if you personally feel. If you're personally, if you're infringed upon, I could understand going out and hurting somebody that did something to you, that infringed on your freedoms. You own yourself, so it kind of makes sense that you would. You know, people say don't make threats, don't hurt people. But if somebody's willing to do it to you, and they can get away with it through the courts and the government and the system, which does that a lot, then you pretty much have your answer right there. Yes, they can do it, but you can't. You know, you have to know better. Well, first off, if the other people don't know better, how's everybody else going to know better? They're not going to. Nobody's going to know better, because you're only showing them how bad you are. You're not showing them, hey, I'm a trustworthy person, won't hurt anybody, if you're taking advantage and solidifying your result by throwing everything, all those spikes at the other people, you know, at the people that you're saying you represent. You're not representing anybody, you're representing yourself. That's it. Professional liars. Professional liars. Whether you're a salesperson or a politician or anything. I've been handicapped into this, and it's sad, you know, that I have to live in it, but, you know, it's not something I'm surprised by. You know, it's a funny thing that I'm not surprised by it, but it's true. You know, when I look at it, I think, wow, it's funny that a lot of people believe in this stuff, because it's so much shit, you know, and it is. It's a lot of shit. You know, it's a lot of shit that people are okay with because, well, what do you get out of it? Well, I get to get money out of it. Okay, but that's not my goal. You know, my goal is to find something that matters to me. You know, and I have to do it that it matters. You know, that's it. You know, it has little to do with the money I make, you know. If I cared about the money I make, I would have been looking for something more serious at this point. And to me, I feel fine, as long as the people around me are secure, but, you know, there won't be any security with the people around me. They have too much fear in them. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't like fear. I don't have any fear. I'm not afraid. I'm scared. I'm definitely scared all the time, but I'm willing to do something about it every single second, every single day. But see, that's the thing. I can't take away that from my family, from anybody around me, by just getting money, by just having success. That's not going to do it. They have to have it for themselves, you know. And this is something I learned from my mom, from my grandmother, from my brother, all of them. I've learned from my mom to basically not live in the fantasy of things, of waiting for the right person. Well, first off, I don't need to wait, because what would that show if I'm waiting for the right person? First off, there's two things. I can only engage in what I know I can. If I know I can't engage in something, it means that I can't at that point. And it means I can't in that way. So, for example, because I don't go for sexual options, oh, okay, well, then this guy, you know, some girls have said, are you gay or something? You know, at certain points, because they wanted that only. Well, no wonder I don't want to be with you, because I don't want just sex. Yes, I want that part of the relationship, but I want all the parts when they come. If this is just about sex, well, then I'm not the right person for you. It means that you have to find somebody else that is closer to that kind of thought, you know, and there are a lot of people out there, so if I'm not the right person for that, that's it. You know, it's nothing big, nothing small. It's actually the easiest thing you can figure out on your own. You don't need me to figure it out for you. And I think within that, looking at what my mom said about that, it makes sense, you know. It's something that you have to do on your own, though. Same thing with my grandma saying that, you know, you gotta be careful about who you choose. Or, in better words, you know, you gotta make somebody part of the family. Well, there's an error in that, which is, I mean, it's a pretty simple one. It's that I'm not looking to make somebody part of a family. Part of me. You know, just to be fair with you, I'm not putting down my family by saying that. I just think it doesn't make sense to find somebody to put part of the family. That's stupid. You know, I want to be with this person. That's it. You know, if it works out with the family, that's good. If it doesn't, well, that's good too. It means that I found somebody that is for me. That's it. You know, all I can ask for is, hey, you know what? All I can ask you to do is don't be bothered if there's an impression or a guilt trip from other people around us. None of that. No notary public needed, no judgment. Don't worry about it. If you have to worry about it, then I'm not the right person for you. It means that personally, that notary public, that judgment, that bastion of ideas and ideology that has been there for centuries means more. The authority figure means more. And I'm sorry, but the authority to me is just love. That's the biggest authority figure you got. Forget about people, forget about civilization, governments, everything else, the system of religions, the system of science, the system of atheism, everything. Forget it all. It's the love. It's the love that we create, that we do create too. It comes through our arms, through our hearts, through our schedules of life, through how we think, the mental state, the critical care and critical love we can give. And the critical love we give ourselves, the empathy and everything else. If we don't use that, we're going to lose it. And we did. A lot of people did lose it. And that's fine. As long as they justifiably announce it. Announce it. Like Eminem does, for example. Eminem, his music always saturated with what he is. And that's why he's changed a lot over the years, because nobody likes him as much anymore. You know why? Because he actually revealed everything to him. What do you like about a person after they reveal everything? Nothing. Why do you lose popularity? Because you revealed everything that you could. And they still don't like you as much. You lose popularity because of that. You don't gain it. You have to lie to people to get somebody to like you. You know, you have to lie to all the people to get them to like you. I don't think he ever did, but I think, in fact, because he didn't, he started big, ended small. And the main reason why is because so many people don't want to deal with that kind of stuff with themselves. So no matter how much he wants to be put on a pedestal for everything he does, he knows that it's not going to happen, and he doesn't care, and that's good. At least he cares enough to keep doing it. And I like to see that from everybody else. Same thing I learned from my brother. You know, my brother taught me the hardest lessons, but he also taught me one thing very important. You have to decide on your own. Yep, it's true. The main reasons why I think personally, what I like when he justifies what he does is the same things that I do. I have to do it on my own. I can't look at anybody else to do it for me. So I'll deal with the truth. You know, I'll deal with the reality. Even if it gets me nothing. It's not supposed to get me something anyway. It's all for me, you know. It's never to put you in your place. It's never to put anybody that I've just spoken of within the family or with anybody else to put them in their place or something. Fuck that. Put yourself in a place, you know, and put yourself in a place that you want to be. You know, if you personally put yourself in a place because you feel trapped with something else, you should reveal that. You know, it's pretty easy to say it, you know. And that's where I end this context of information for the Death King, the Pink Cloud Radio today. And a lovely day for it. So take care. Love to all.